YouTube, and we're also feeding it into Substack.
Correct, sir.
Okay.
All right.
And by the way, if you're just joining us, we're getting it going. We're syncing everywhere. This is the Buy, Sell, Hold Miami. It is a weekly podcast. We do it at 4 o'clock Eastern time, assuming we get everything right technologically, and looks like we got it right this time. We're going to be doing it every Friday. So if you are commuting back, or maybe you're end of the day and you're looking to sort of skip out, you don't want your boss knowing what you're doing, put on the podcast or put on the live. We're on Substack, we're on YouTube, and we'll probably be other places as the weeks go on. And we're going to be talking real estate. We're going to give you straight talk. Condos are my thing. Daniel kind of does a lot of it, but he's kind of he's in the trenches, kind of working the details. I'm more of like the fat cat. I gained a little bit of weight. More of the fat cat who's sitting in front of a computer running spreadsheets and pulling data. And by the way, before we do get started, I'm wearing this. You normally see me in white, which means I'm working. You see me in black, which means I'm out partying Taiwan on. I'm in orange today because I'm wandering around. We're doing a tour tomorrow. I do these walking tours, 3-hour tour, walk about 4 miles. So I was out scouting stuff, riding the Metro Rail, doing other things. So that's why I look the way I am, and I'm way too sweaty. So Daniel, if you were here, I would not give you a hug.
I'd hug you. But I like the fashion consultant you picked up. The orange really makes you stick out. There's crazy drivers out there. You can't be wearing white or black. You're going to get hit by a car.
Well. Listen. There is a theme to this shirt. If you look at it, you're going to see I got the Australian logo on here, and I also have the T20. Daniel, you much of a cricket fan?
Cricket, no, but it's a funny story. Totally unrelated to real estate. But I was sitting on an airplane, and they say, you should never strike up a conversation with somebody on an airplane like right away, because if it's a 2, 3, 4 hour flight, you might be stuck talking to this person for an extended period of time and there's nowhere to go. And I did not heed to those that suggestion, and I'm watching satellite TV on a flight, and I'm scrolling through it, and I see the guy next to me. He's watching cricket, and I guess he notices that I haven't really settled on something to watch, and he goes, "Hey, you should watch cricket. There's a really big match going on." I goes, "Man, I have no idea how to watch cricket." He goes, "Well, it's a 3-hour flight. You want to learn?" And that was 3 or 4 years ago, and I learned the rules of cricket. It's like baseball.
It's baseball with no foul ball.
Baseball and the runs. There's a lot of runs. You get these scores that are 100 and something to 100 and something, right?
Yep. So the reason I bring it up is in the United States, there was one accredited by the International Cricket, I think International Cricket Council, Cricket Committee, whatever it is, ICC. And there was one internationally approved site in the United States, and it is in Broward County. It's in Lauderhill, right off 441. And right off of Sunrise and 441. A place called Lauderhill. They built this because there's a large East Indian community there, which is primarily the former British areas of the Caribbean and stuff. So they host cricket matches. The West Indies, which represents all of the cricket countries, including Guyana in the Caribbean, they always have people come visit every summer, and it's always a 5-day series, and they play in 5 different towns effectively, but they always carve out the last 2 in Lauderhill. So every year I go see the West Indies, which are a spectacular team, against the New York Yankees, if you will, of cricket, India, and all these others. So this year we're going to go see Pakistan.
Kidding.
Yeah, we're going to see Pakistan in the first week of August. And if you're interested in going, we can go together. I can walk you through it. But what's interesting about this is when you go to see cricket with the West Indians, this is basically Jamaica and anything that was former British, Trinidad, Tobago, places like that. Right. So what they're doing, normally they'll do it Fridays, or they'll do it Saturday and Sunday at 10 a.m. start. And it goes for about probably 4 hours. This year, what they're doing, and I'm so psyched about it, they're doing a night match on a Saturday in Lauderhill, which is a huge contingent of West Indians. That's where Usain Bolt, the Jamaican sprinter who was the fastest man in the world, the city of Miramar actually put up a statue for him, just to give you a reflection of how much of a West Indian community there is down here in South Florida. So Saturday, I think it's August the 2nd, we're going to have a match between Pakistan and West India. I mean, the West Indies, or the Windies, as they call them. It's going to go on at night. It's going to be a party-like atmosphere, and it's going to be almost like traveling in the Caribbean. But preceding that, and this isn't a podcast about cricket, but just to show you the diversity of this community, preceding that, there's something called a Major League Cricket, which effectively is a breakout professional league for cricket players. It lasts for about a month, and they bring in the best cricketers in the world. They sign with teams. There's 6 teams. They don't have one in South Florida yet, but they're going to be playing, I think it's 6 or 8 matches the first week of July, where all the teams from all over the United States will all descend upon South Florida, and they're all going to be playing cricket matches. And I bought some tickets in advance because once it gets close, they jack up the prices. So I got in for, I think, $20 a ticket by the first match. They'll probably be going for 100, 150 a ticket. So we got cricket in July, Major League Cricket, and then we got West Indian cricket in August. So that's why I got my cricket shirt on. I'm excited.
When it's late and I'm on the couch and I can't figure out what to watch, if you open up Hulu, if you have Hulu,
Yep.
Streaming cricket. Well, it's on the other side of the world, so it's a 13-hour, 14-hour time difference, and there are always cricket matches.
And it's fantastic. Well, so most cricket, again, my last comment on cricket, and then we'll stop. Most cricket matches, if you go traditional, it's going to last days. Everybody gets to bat once, and once you make an out, and the way you make an out is somebody catches on the fly, and or there's a play at the plate or a play at the base. It's what they call a wicket. Just keep it simple. So if you pop out and you're out, you're out. You don't bat again. Or if you get thrown out going to another base, which in this case would be a wicket, you're gone and you never get the bat again. So if you get a great batter, and the West Indians have some sluggers. Like if you think about baseball, we're talking like Aaron Judge types. These guys can hit the piss out of the cricket ball. So it could go days, but what they do to try to make it modernized for 21st century, they call it something called a T20. So my shirt says T20. So that means you're going to get the whole match in about probably about 4 hours or so. So T20 is like the younger version.
Play clock.
Yeah, it's like a play clock because there's only so many pitches or bowl. They call it bowl. It's the same shit, but there's so many pitches, and then the other team gets the bat, or unless you make outs. So, but I'm telling you, if you are in South Florida, you're coming to South Florida in July, beginning of August, go out to this cricket ground. This venue is like the Wrigley Field of baseball, the Green Monster in Boston. This old cricket ground, it's not that old. It was built in like 09, 08 or something like that. But it's something to see. Yeah, it's something to see. It's tremendous, and the vibe is spectacular.
Well, we get all the funky sports down here. I mean, you gotta cross Miami-Dade County line, but you got polo. I mean, you can still go watch highlight. I don't know if anybody does, but it's there.
That's right. It's still going on. Yep. We got the baseball. There's actually street hockey. A lot of people play street hockey. In the summer, you got to start really early. But yeah, no. And then you got the Panthers in the Stanley Cup again.
Oh, I'm not a sports guy, but yeah.
Third straight year they're in the Stanley Cup. They lost the first one. They won the second one, and then here we go again.
Well, speaking of awesome things in South Florida, how was real estate this Memorial Day weekend? Because I think it kind of slumped.
Well, I mean, statistically, it shows to have been slumping for quite some time. But what I will tell you though, yeah, well, at least on the condos. And when I'm just going to talk about condos. I don't look at houses. Houses are works of art. You need specialists. Condos are commodities. This is like buying a salty snack, gasoline, coffee. How much is it per ounce for that product, or how much is it per foot for a condo? So condos, I know. The houses, that's beyond my scope. I don't understand.
But I'm saying overall, you talk a lot about the analysis paralysis.
Yes. Yeah. I call this the summer of paralysis by analysis, because no one's going to do anything. They're going to sit on the sideline.
So it's sellers who don't want to lower prices, and it's buyers who don't want to play ball. And
that's
we're
right.
Sort of stuck here.
That's right.
We're stuck in a clutch. And I was pulling some data. Active listings have increased 44% up year over year in Dade. And that's everybody. That's all price points, that's condos, that's single family home. But the overall inventory remains below pre-pandemic levels. And that's your 2019 date that you always love to go back to. And
no. This is on the house side or all product?
This is everybody.
Okay.
The figure that I like to look at a lot is the sale to list to sale price ratio. So what the what the property closed at, and then what they were asking for originally.
Yeah,
So
almost it's not the same, but almost like a bid ask for conversation.
yeah,
Yeah, it's the spread, the difference between what they want and what it should trade for.
right, and then what was the ultimate discount?
Yep,
Because
yep,
that
yep.
tells me, once we start seeing that number rise, that indicates to me, oh, sellers are looking to play ball, and that number, depending on what submarket you're in, if you're in a luxury market like Miami Beach or Coconut Grove or Coral Gables, we're seeing it's anywhere from like 8 to 10%. I think if we zoom out on the larger market, it's probably closer to 5 or 6%. But in the luxury markets, these $2, $3, $4 million properties, they're taking haircuts, and that's condo and single family home. Gone are those days where we're seeing 16 people line up for an open house on a Saturday, and then the property is going to wind up going for $50K or more over asking. And I know that's definitely been happening in the condominium market. We saw, and I'm going to call out a building, and it's actually right behind your office, Paramount, which is
Paramount, yeah. Paramount Miami World Center. Yep.
Yeah, Paramount Miami World Center. That's a mouthful, right? And that was the
Yep.
first building to go up in this World Center project. I think they delivered what, 2018, 2017 on that?
Somewhere, yeah. It was pre-pandemic, so 6 years ago.
Okay, there are over 100 units for sale in that building.
Yep. And let me tell you, there's always been a lot. And last time I took a look at it, the developer was still holding units. So, but that was the last time I looked. Typically, what a developer's not going to hold units, they're going to try to unload their quality at the end once they can build up some pricing comparables. Think of it like you're trying to build a score and you want to hire and hire and hire. Some of them they'll withhold, and then they'll slow sell it. They'll sell slowly. In that particular project, last time I looked a few years back, it was still developer held. I don't know what it is today, but when you see that, it typically means it's a tough sell, because these are typically all profit for the developer. Generally speaking, when a developer pre-sells a project, they're going to sell 75 to 80% of the building, maybe 90% of the building. The last 10 to 20% they're going to hold, because these are for the buyers who are real and don't mind paying more, but they want to kick the tires and they want to see the quality, especially if you don't know that particular developer and what his or her track record is, what kind of quality they deliver. A first-time developer, those are the ones I would encourage people not to pull the trigger and buy pre-construction. Let them deliver it. Let them touch it and feel it before you actually buy it. Because if you're putting your money down for 3 to 4 years on a contract on a developer who's never built here before, you might walk in and be like, oh shit, I didn't know it was going to be like this. So if it's a new developer, wait till it delivers, pay a premium, but you know what you're buying. If it's a veteran developer like a George Perez, you know what you're going to get. He just slaps it together, they put it up, it's consistent, it's kind of always average type of product, same number of elevators, same everything. So, they're all habitual offenders, the veterans. And based on what they did previously, they're probably going to replicate it over and over and over.
Well, yeah, why fix it if it ain't broke?
Well, sometimes it is broke, but it's cheaper to kind of do it that way. Like a sure telltale sign is look at the elevators. Take the number of units divided by the number of elevators. That will give you a good sense as to whether or not the building's going to be a complete pain in the ass. And or if there's a condo hotel, how many elevators are earmarked for the hotel and how many earmarked for the residents. Because you do not want to be in a building, and I can think of many, where if you're on the 30th floor, you're waiting to go down and say you work a traditional work week, you're stuck in the elevator. You get on there, it's elbow to elbow. You finally get down, you go to your car, you forgot something. Now you got to go back. The whole thing is like, 30 minutes to 45 minutes round trip on the elevator. That's why elevator count, the ratio of units to elevators, can be critical if you're living there. Now, if you're not living there, you don't want a lot of elevators because it's going to add to the overall expenses. Just like if you're an investor, you don't want a swimming pool. You don't want amenities. Why? Because you got to pay for it. You want to rent a place that has it all, but you don't want to pay for it. And you want to buy a place that has no amenities because the maintenance fees will come down significantly. If that makes sense.
No, it makes complete sense. It's kind of a drop in the bucket when you consider that 70 or 80% of these maintenance fees are going towards insurance. No.
Yeah, insurance is like 22 to 25% depending, roughly. Yeah, and then the management fee for a property management company, I think it's like 3 to 5%. First Service, who's one of the big boys down here, they come out with a study.
Peter.
First Service,
It's
the old
First
Continental.
Service.
Yeah, the old Continental.
It starts with a K. Why am I forgetting this?
Oh no, you're thinking of I should know, and anybody watching it. So you got Castle, you got First Service, you got
First
some
Service
littler ones. You
is
also
the one
have
who lets out the benchmark report, right?
no, that's First Service.
Yeah, First Service is the one who released the benchmark report.
The benchmark. Yep,
And
yep, yep,
anybody who doesn't
yep.
know what we're talking about, in the beginning of this year, I think, was it the first one?
It was like August, September.
August, September. And so they are a large property manager for these condominiums. So an HOA, they're not going to just manage it by themselves. They need valet people. They need people to do their books. They need people to look at tenant applications. And so they're going to hire a professional management company. Oftentimes it's hired by the developer, and the HOA will just inherit whoever that is. Now, what happens is they collect so much data. And down here, First Residential has the lion's share of HOAs under their management purview.
Yeah. First Service. Yep.
Yeah, First Service. And so they released a benchmark report, and the two jarring things that everybody was looking for, the two big data points were, for smaller buildings, so buildings under 100 units, what should the average monthly maintenance be? And then for buildings over 100 units, what should the monthly maintenance look like? Because there has been such an increase, and I'm talking like 50% or more in a lot of these buildings over the past few years, primarily because insurance has gone up so much.
Yep.
And so people want transparency. If I've been living in this building in Brickell for 30 years, and then all of a sudden in the last few years, my HOA has increased in the last few years more than it has in the last few decades, I want to know what everyone else is paying, because A, I could be getting scammed somewhere. B, did we really need to fix the railing? And C, yeah, no, seriously. I mean, I understand that with Surfside, everybody needs to collect for reserves, and there's these structural capital improvement projects. But let's get real. A vintage building who has met the reserve requirements and is still paying upwards of $2 per square foot per month on maintenance, that smells a little fishy to me.
Well, if you remember before the pandemic, maintenance fees, generally speaking, the mainland, call it Greater Downtown Miami or so, you got a 5-mile causeway, 4-mile causeway. If somebody's listening and they don't know what we're talking about, so let me lay it out from the topography. You got the Atlantic Ocean to the east. You got the Barrier Island where Miami Beach is. You then got a bay, and there's a causeway 4 to 5 miles long, and then you got the mainland. So on the west side, you got Greater Downtown Miami. The east side, you have Miami Beach. So before the pandemic, ballpark. Maintenance fees, these are paid monthly per square foot or so, they were coming in about 75 cents a square foot per month on the mainland, and typically you would pencil in $1 a foot on the beach. Fast forward to today, and we're talking north of what, 110, 120, 150. Some are pushing $2. I'm hearing new construction starts at 150 a foot minimum to north of $2. And then once the association, the owners take over this new building, they're going to realize the developer's subsidizing, and they're probably going to have to check it up another 10 to 15%. So you're talking $2 a foot, which is not tax deductible at all. If you're burning it, even if you own it outright, you're on the hook for 2% property tax, and then potentially $2 a foot on maintenance every single month. So 1,000 square foot place, you're burning $2,000 a month for, I guess, the concierge.
Plunge in the gym, Peter.
Go to Planet Fitness. What is it, $10 a month? Most of them are going to go anyways. Who are you kidding?
But you said it right there. These HOA fees, they're getting crazy, and developers. So if you buy pre-construction today at the Mandan Oriental, we're just going to take a moonshot project. Well, it's not a moonshot project, but the epitome of high HOAs, or maybe the Well in Coconut Grove is going to be higher.
Okay.
What is their estimate? I don't know. I got to talk to the sales director. But I would argue, I would not be surprised if the monthly HOA in these buildings is above $2.25, say $250, and that's today. Wow. That's today. That's with, and those are developer estimates of somebody who's incentivized to keep that as low as possible because they're trying to sell pre-construction units.
But they're also subsidizing because they're offering services that once the association takes over and they have control and they look at the books, they're like, there's no way in hell we can keep all
But
this going unless we raise fees even higher.
we're in an insurance crisis in the state, right? So insurance is going up. So if I break ground on a building today and I make an estimate and I get a
Yep.
quote from an insurer, who's to say that in 3 or 4 years when I deliver this, insurance isn't going to double or triple again? And you said it
Yeah, we don't know
yourself
what the
there.
hurricane season is going to be like. I mean, even though the hurricanes have hit on the west coast of Florida, we're still going to be paying on the east coast of Florida.
Of course we are. Of course we are. And these developers are only taking tier one insurers. I mean,
Yep.
they're getting insured by the AIGs of the world, not the State Farms of the world, right? Um, we're over time with Memorial Day slough analysis paralysis. I want to hear about your walking tour tomorrow.
Oh yeah. Listen, it's one thing to look on Google Maps and sort of check stuff out, and it's like, oh, it looks good, but then when you actually walk it or you drive it, you're like, this place is great, it's perfect location, but it sucks to get to. And once I get in, I can't get out because I'm stuck in traffic. There's a bridge, there's whatever. So one of the things we do is we go out and we walk a territory. So we go through and we model a market. So we're going to do what we call the Biscayne Boulevard corridor. We're going to do that tomorrow, Saturday, 31st. It's going to start at 10 a.m., go to 1 o'clock or so. We walk about 4 miles. We go to a decent pace. I give everybody a handout. I give itemized list of all, 68 towers that are in this area, which is comprised of Edgewater to the east of the tracks. To the west of the tracks is going to be Wynwood, and to the kind of the northern portion, which is like 36th Street. So think
So
MacArthur
like
Causeway is your
25
southern.
blocks?
Yeah, it's somewhere to say 24 blocks. We're not going to walk we're going to walk more than 24 blocks as we meander, but it's a 24 block south to north stretch from MacArthur Causeway, where they're putting up that spider, the design for the roads, all the way up to the Denny's on 36th Street and the Taco Bell and the Shell. So we kind of meander around there. We take a look at all the buildings. I help people understand, like when you look at a building, what are you looking for? Is this building in play? Is it not in play? If you're a realtor, should I take a listing in this damn thing? Is anything going to sell or am I going to waste my time? Remember I mentioned last week, there was that person in the club who's, she's dropping $2,500 per listing. She's got 38 listings. So do you really want to take on a listing that's not going to sell and burn his cash? So I just kind of lay out from an analytical perspective how to evaluate buildings. Like one of the things that popped up, for instance, is there's a building called Missoni. You know the Missoni, Daniel?
I know the Missoni, yes.
All right, so Missoni is top quality. It's luxury. It's all that type of stuff. Problem with this area is traditionally it's been like a starter home market. So if, when you come to Greater Downtown Miami, you start in Edgewater if you're like in a administrative assistant or something, and ultimately you evolve and you grow into Brickell Avenue, which is kind of where a lot of people want to be. So Missoni right now, there's a ratio. When you look at a building, 10% of the units should always be for sale. Less than 10% means that the seller has the advantage, more that is the buyer. Missoni right now, 15% of the units are for sale. So from an analytical perspective, this is a building in play where sellers are probably going to have to discount in order to move stuff out the door. And when you start to look at the amount of supply that's in there, this is how you use the numbers to understand it. And what we do with the tour is we give everybody a hand up all the buildings. We show them how to do the things, and then we walk it because now you can get a sense. Okay, here's this, here's that, and it's. I'm not going to say it's enlightening, but when you walk that area, you realize how close Midtown actually is to Wynwood. But more importantly, Edgewater, where a lot of people, if you're stuck in traffic, you don't get that understanding because you bumper to bumper and you're moving very slowly. But walking it opens your eyes, I would argue.
That's very interesting. So, do you walk people down from Biscayne down to the water? Because I think that for me, that's always been a really difficult sell. You're sitting in traffic going to one of these buildings on Biscayne, and if you've done it on a Wednesday at 4 o'clock, it's bumper to bumper traffic.
And they're asking $1,100 a foot. $1,100 a foot, and then you can't drive because it's bumper to bumper traffic, so you have to hoof it everywhere. So you're almost like on public transportation at $1,100 a foot.
And if you have to hoof it, these buildings are built on the water. Biscayne is not on the water in Edgewater. You have to walk 2 to 4 blocks east-west, and that isn't developed yet. And
they suck because they're long blocks because most of them don't have streets separating them. So it might be one block, but the freaking thing is like you said, 2, 3, 4 blocks.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. So you could be walking half a mile to Biscayne, and then you're only on Biscayne at this point. So you still got to walk. You still got to walk maybe another 2, 3, 4 blocks You cross the train tracks, Miami Avenue, and then you're in Wynwood. And so
Now,
once it all connects, it's going to be really nice. Don't get me wrong. But
yep.
right now, it's hey, I either want to live in Wynwood, which you have the Nomad, they have several projects going up there, or I want to be as close to the seawall as possible by the water. Everything else is just, well, I guess Norman Bremen.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and so there needs to be a marriage of those two neighborhoods. Unfortunately, it's dissected by this railroad, which anybody who's been on that Julia Tuttle 36th and Biscayne intersection knows that dissection with the train rails is awful, and there's nothing we can do about it. That's going to stay there. It's going to be there forever.
Well, I'll tell you one thing they can do for that area. You want to see how you get this all resolved? Real simple. So right now, if you look at, so the difficulty is there's train tracks. This is Old Man Flagler, Henry Flagler's old line, effectively. So Old Man Flagler builds this line. Ultimately, it ends up going to the port of Miami. Now, Midtown used to be a container, a storage facility. So they used to take the containers and the cabins.
It was Chiquita Banana, right?
Yeah. Well, FEC, all the Flagler stuff used to be there. And back in the day, Dan, I don't know if you remember this, probably about a 10, 12-foot high wall that went all the way around Midtown because they were keeping all the containers in there that were on the FEC. They would go between Miami and Jacksonville. And then from there, they get transshipped, and then they would go, on along I-10 out to LA or wherever they were going to go. So when they built Midtown, they tore down the walls, and all of a sudden you opened it up. But one of the key parts is when you're going from the east, it's called Biscayne, and you're going west to Miami Avenue, not very far. There's only 3 roads other than 36th Street that will let you through. 29th, 20th, and 20th. No, it's like 20th, like 27, 28, and 29. There's one. So Enriqueta's, the Cuban restaurant, is on 29th.
The best. He's the only guy who didn't sell. It's like this big on the corner. And I lived at 2 Midtown 10 years ago.
Oh, you were 2 Midtown. Okay.
I lived at 2 Midtown 10 years ago when downstairs it was called the Cheese Course, the place on the corner.
Yeah, I remember that place.
And then there was Angelina.
It was Black Brick was there at the time, the Chinese
Black
restaurant,
Brick,
right?
Salumeria, I think is still there. It's when Sugarcane was cool.
Remember which, by the way, you see how he closed?
Yeah, out, kaput.
That was it. You don't know how many developers and lenders I used to meet there. You'd show up there, you have a couple drinks, you at the outside bar talking shit, and next thing you know, everybody was there. Yeah, it was the place.
But Enriqueta's, which, by the way, anybody who's watching, best Cuban sandwich in Miami. I know everybody loves sandwich in Miami. I think that's a different sort of Cuban sandwich. That's like a neo-Cuban sandwich. I'm talking like classic Cuban sandwich with half a stick of melted butter on the bread.
Don't say that.
Tostones that are like the size of a frisbee. But so to thread the needle with the real estate part, he didn't sell, and they built up around him. And
all around him.
One might say, "Oh, look at these developers screwing the little guy." This guy fed every construction worker in Midtown for the last decade.
That's right.
I mean, and I think they're only open till like 2:00.
Yeah, exactly. It's a typical breakfast lunch. It's like going to Plaza Seafood over in Alapata. You go in there, it's slammed. The food is good. The price is great. So, other than the Enriqueta's Corner, there's a I think it's 27th. It's where the Gary Nader Art Gallery is, and there's a little side road. It dumps you right by Beaker and Gray, what used to be Beaker and Gray on Miami Avenue. Right, so short of that and 20th,
where the original legacy,
the Synergy, right? Synergy condo building. Banco ZK's got his office. Yeah. But that's all. Listen, you want to resolve the traffic there? Simple. All these streets from 20th to 27th, open them up. Now, it means you're going to have to put, the arms from the rail and stuff like that. You will alleviate all this traffic. It all bottlenecks to get across.
Road crossings for a train that hits more things, people, and bicycles than any other train in the country. I don't understand this. I mean, did you see the video? I think it might have been in Broward. Actually, I got to give Broward a little credit. It was probably in Dade. Dude, a fire truck tried to go around the barricade. I mean,
but that's a push-pull though, because somebody's life might be at risk. But then, yeah, so I can see that dilemma, but I don't see some dumbass who wants to go to
A
Publix.
motorcycle isn't agile enough to get through
True.
one of those things quick enough. Dude, the
True.
train's going, what, 70, 80 miles an hour?
Yeah.
It's the right line, right? I mean,
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
You're not even seeing this thing come through. I mean, crap. I'm not even sure the Herald will report on it because that's a very Debbie Downer news. But thankfully, we have Only in Dade, and I feel like every other day it's either somebody who got their boat stuck on a boat ramp, or somebody trying to go around the Bright Line or another cargo train. It's funny, but that's Midtown. I want to move. But
let me hit on one point though with the tour though, because I think this is an important number to kind of keep in mind. So I said there's about 70 towers, nearly 70 towers in that area, and about 14,250 units. So it's a good number. But here's the interesting part that I find: 22 months of supply.
That's a lot, right?
6 months is equilibrium. Less than 6 months seller's advantage. More than 6 months buyer advantage. This is a buyer's market that nobody's talking about. Why? Because everybody's trying to sell. So if you're a buyer and you're looking, this is where when you use analytics and you use numbers and then you couple it with an agent or a broker who knows what the hell they're doing, this is how you find deals. I mentioned the Missoni. 15% of the building is for sale. If I'm a buyer, I'm going in there and I know I can pit one seller against the other. And this is where the numbers kick in. But too many people get focused on, oh, look at the view. Oh, it smells nice in the lobby. That's not the way. You need to focus on this stuff like a commodity. Like, where can I get the cheapest Cuban sandwich? You mentioned sandwich. I went there, $15 for a Cuban sandwich. I don't burn $15 on the Cuban. I mean, the right price should be about $7.50. I like the place on Lejeune in Northwest 7th, Latin America Cafe, or Latin 2000, I think it's called.
No, you're
right over there.
I thought you were talking about Luis Galindo's place on 57th and 8th Street.
No, I have not. That's not the Sarah.
No,
that's not the one with the sauce on it.
No, that's the one that he bought. This guy, the Cuban restaurants in Miami are amazing, right? And Versailles did this too. Versailles bought a building on 8th Street, knocked it down to expand their parking lot. That's how big they are. Luis Galindo on 57th and 8th Street, he bought a gas station. One of the most cash positive businesses you can operate in the United States of America, and he knocked it down and turned it into a parking lot because he sells that many Cuban sandwiches.
Wow. But Biscayne Boulevard corridor, 22 months of supply. Now, Daniel, would you take a listing in that area? Oh, it's Edgewater. What the hell are you going to do if there's too much supply?
You're not buying the unit, you're buying the building, right? And you say that all the time.
100%. Focus on the building. Eliminate. There's 70 buildings. I like this unit. I like that unit. No, focus on the building. Once you know the building, come up with the pricing. Then you sit back and you wait for the right deal. Otherwise, you're going to run around like a freaking maniac. You're not going to get the best deal, and you're probably going to get snookered. So if you understand and study a building, just like Daniel, like with a single-family house, you got to understand the neighborhood. Every neighborhood and every street, it's different. And unfortunately, when people come to condos, they're like, oh, this name, that name, and then they end up having buyer remorse, which I'm sure there's a lot of right now. 22 months of supply. That means if nobody lists anything else from this day forward, 2 years from now, they'll finally burn through everything that they have on the market. At this sales space.
Inventory coming up, sir.
And that's the point. That's the point. And then you got all the new stuff. The new stuff isn't even available because it's off market. It's like a dark pool stuff.
Look, if you're buying a vintage condo, and we talk about this all the time. You're buying a vintage condo. They're right on the cusp of doing their 40-year. Maybe they just did their 40-year and you lucked out because we're on like the 42nd year, right? 43rd year, and you're not getting hit with that special assessment. That's fine, right? But with all the new inventory coming online, you either want to get a deal with a 40-plus year building that's already gone through their assessment.
Yep, and they get that little report. Yep. If you're buying a condo, look for the report. You got to get a report.
Or you're going to buy new. Why? Like, there's no market for a 15-year-old building unless there's a deal. And there's too much inventory right now for that to be competitive. You have to be the lowest priced unit in that building, in that line of that building.
However, if you're a buyer, if you're a buyer,
that's an amazing position to be in.
This is why we're doing the tour. Because people are like, oh my God, I'm going to do it myself. I mean, a lot of them are going to strike out because it seems easy, but then once you go through the process, you got to coordinate, you got to do the contract, you end up ultimately going with a real estate professional who knows what the hell they're doing. But it's
So
not to say you can't give it a shot.
You did a dry run today. What are you excited about for tomorrow?
Basically, so the way we do is we start at the Metro Mover station, Adrian Arch Metro Mover station, like 13th or so in Biscayne Boulevard, right over there by the old Omni. It's right where the bus terminal is.
Where they're building the signature bridge.
Exactly. So we meander, we go along Margaret Pace Park. Oh my God, Margaret Pace Park back in the day when I got here in the 90s, they had wrought iron fences up to keep the hookers and the drug addicts out. Now they have it down. There's a dog park and there's this and there. It's
very pretty. I wish the quality of buildings that bordered it were better.
Well, a lot of them though were built during the 2002 boom, if you will. So yeah, they're looking a little long in the tooth. They definitely they've been partying too much and they haven't been eating their vegetables, if you will. So we meander through. We go up to where the Unity Church used to be. Remember, it got knocked down, and they had that big parking lot, and it used to block the road. Now there's an easement, so you can actually get through. And we wander up and down, and when you see the magnitude of what used to be a 3- and 4-story building, with the nice ornamental facade, then you see last generation, say the O2 boom, and now you see this new boom. Dude, it is like...
Can you walk along? Is the seawall all connected all the way up? How far does the seawall go up?
Most of the way it's connected up around, where the Starbucks is, somewhere like 27th or so, 28th.
Yeah.
There's an old rental building there, or condo. I don't remember it. No, it's got to be a rental. They actually got it blocked, but if not for that, you'd be able to wander all the way up
That's
to.
Kind of scummy. Why does the city make them open that up?
Well, I think they make them open up once there's some kind of improvement. Kind of like with your house, if you improve over a certain percentage, then you got to bring everything up to code.
You got to bring everything up to code.
Yeah, it's one of these buildings that will ultimately get terminated. But to go through and see these buildings, and you know what else I saw? What I saw, which was freaking awesome from my perspective, is many buildings, when they hit their 10-year mark, anniversary, oh my God, I want a new building. We have to understand at the 10-year mark, they typically kick in place a special assessment because they need to do upkeep and maintain stuff. So the amount of facade work that's being done on buildings that are coming up to 10 years is overwhelming. One of them that I saw was Biscayne Beach. It's this building right there on the bay. They got the whole side. They're doing all kinds of stuff. And this is a 10-year-old building.
Yep.
But like massive, like you're looking at it like, dude, how old is this building? And it came online 10 years ago. So, again, what does that mean? Special assessments. That means cost. That means, more importantly, if it takes a year or two, you're sitting there, you can't go on your balcony because you got some guys doing work and there's dust. And every time there's dust, everybody knows pigeons come. So you get the pigeons, you get the dust, you get the noise, and you're like, I'm paying how much a square foot for my maintenance?
Is what you get.
100%. 100%. But that's some of the stuff. If you're a DIYer, I'm going to buy a condo. You don't know this stuff, and you go in, and then you're like, oh shit, what did I do? Which and keep in mind, this Biscayne Boulevard corridor, again, Edgewater, Midtown, Wynwood. That's an area that traditionally was the poor person moving into greater downtown Miami. That's where they would live, and they would they aspired to move to Brickell because that was much more controlled. Like the difference between West Miami, where Marco Rubio's from, and the Gables. Big difference. You cross that line, it's a big difference. That's what it was between Biscayne Boulevard corridor and Brickell Avenue. But now they're starting to fill in the blanks. The question is it going to hold? And if you got 22 months of supply, I would say sell because prices are going to get pushed down going forward.
So we're talking sell. You're selling in the condo vultures walking toward tomorrow. Are we buying?
The Edgewater area, I'd be a seller. I'd be buying off of, like I always say, 2019 valuations. You need to take everything from the pandemic, throw it out the window, go back to 19 because that's the last time we had real pricing.
Oh, and we forgot to mark buy, sell, hold on the analysis paralysis.
I came up with it, so I'm the summer of paralysis by analysis. So I'm a buy on that. I don't think anybody does anything. Although I did find it funny, and I don't want to get into politics, but this whole scenario that President Trump goes forward with a tariff, and then he backs out. Some say chickens out. I think that sort of shows you that people are kind of in flux and they don't know what they're going to do. I don't think people are doing anything unless everything is lifted or there's some clarity. I don't think anybody's doing anything till Labor Day because it'll probably get resolved by then. July 9th is the next deadline related to the first round of tariffs from Liberation Day. The pause takes it 90 days. That takes you to July 9th. China was a month later, so China's going to be in August. And in August, you got hurricane warnings. You got people taking their kids to Disney. Everyone's on vacation before school goes back. I think basically it's a dead summer until Labor Day, personally.
Well, somebody who isn't very dead, I don't know why I'm still using that analogy, but you sent me a piece about Swerdlow's $3 billion affordable housing project going on in Little Haiti. And I want to talk a little bit about that. If you're watching on YouTube, sharing my screen, Florida YIMBY reported on it, Real Deals reported on it, Miami-Dade approved it a few months ago. But this project is so large. They are building a tri-rail station. I mean, this is a multifamily real estate developer who is building such a large project, who is undertaking, which I think it's fantastic, by the way. We need more affordable housing. I don't care where it goes. I think it's great that it's going in a place like Little Haiti, with no climate change risk. Water ain't going up there. And it's going to have access to public transit. So you talk about West Miami being sort of like the aspirational milestone as you make your way east towards Coral Gables or Coconut Grove. I think that a place like this will give people a good stepping stone, a good springboard as they continue to move east. If they want to first rent here, they'll be able to do that, and they don't have to commute from Casa Carajo and Homestead. Really, I mean, this is who this is for. This is for people who work in hospitality on Miami Beach. This is for people who maybe work in the front office of a doctor's office. I think, let's see, Designed by Architectonica, Little River District will include, get this, 2,300 affordable housing units for those making 60% of Miami-Dade's $79,400 median income, with another 1,400 workforce rental units for those making up to 120% of the median income, and then another 2,048 workforce condo units with subsidies provided to help buyers who make 140% of the median income. I mean, it's a big deal. Why isn't this popping up everywhere? And I'm not sure. It didn't say it in the YIMBY article. I don't know if Swerdlow brought a handgun to the negotiating table, as many developers are doing with Live Local.
And you should probably give everybody just a real simple explanation of Live Local.
Live Local was passed 2022, 2023. And what it is a Florida law that allows developers to supersede municipal building codes to build affordable housing. So from 85,000 feet up, I have a 100-unit building, or let's scale up a little bit. I have a 1,000-unit multifamily project. If I make 40% of that, or 400 of those units available for affordable housing, depending on where that is in Miami. In one part of Miami, it might be $80,000 a year. In another part of Miami, it might be $96,000 a year. In another part of Miami, it might be $65,000 a year. But if 40% of that 1,000-unit building is for affordable housing, the developer can supersede municipal building codes. So they can say, hey, City of Miami, tough, I'm building it.
Piss off.
That's been a huge point of contention because they're able to supersede certain architectural styles. They're able to knock down things that the community and the conservatives, the conservationists didn't want to have knocked down. I think the Florida legislature has pulled back on a lot of that, especially in Miami Beach, with the Art Deco district, because people are coming to the negotiating table with a handgun. I mean, metaphorically, of course. But that handgun, keep the metaphor, is the Live Local Act. And they say, hey, we're trying to be the good guys. We want to build affordable housing. This happened in Bell Harbor right after the law was passed about a year ago. And the uppity folks in Bell Harbor said, no, I do not want affordable housing in Bell Harbor. If you go back, I know we talked about this a few weeks ago, but if you go back to the 70s, and this is in Miami, this is Washington, D.C. If you go back to the 70s, we're at the height of the Cold War, and we're building, all this brutalist stuff. The Washington, D.C. Metro was built. I think it was open in 1978, 1979. It is gorgeous to this day. It's a very nice public transportation system, but you can't go to Georgetown on it.
I didn't realize that. Really?
There are no metro stops in Georgetown.
Oh, why?
I'll let you use your imagination for that. But and I talk about that
Kind of like taking a Metro Mover to Miami Beach.
Yeah, kind of like taking the Metro Mover to Miami Beach. I didn't put it on the rundown this week, but next week I do want to have a longer discussion about the Rickenbacker Causeway.
Yes.
But going back to Swerdlow, this project it's important to the community. It's important to me. I live here. I think if you love the city of Miami, Peter loves the city of Miami, I love the city of Miami. We need projects like these, and this is a mega project. Developers don't have to build multi-billion-dollar affordable housing projects, but I think that this can go down as a best practice of sorts, right?
Well,
hey,
but here's always the issue, and I remember this, and I remember this from the buildup for the Great Recession. By the time government gets involved with putting up this stuff, the market changes. And once the market changes,
absolutely,
all the plans, the allocations, the this, the that, and it all goes by the wayside. So I would just say enforce what you got, and I'm not saying like a hardcore right or anything, but I'm saying enforce Airbnb rules, enforce some of the other stuff that's out there. And now what you're going to see is some of these people are going to get blown out. And as they get blown out, you're going to see a decrease in pricing. So I remember lead up to the Great Recession, you had so many speculative condos that were out there on the board. And there was a guy called Mark Sarnoff, who's the commissioner of City of Miami, represented the Coconut Grove area. His big thing was affordable workforce, blah, 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 blah. The market collapses. Dude, landlords were subsidizing you to move in their apartments. We used to go to restaurants and we'd be talking to somebody, Novecento. Remember Novecento? It was over there on Brickell Avenue in like 14th or something.
No,
we'd go in there.
Brickell Village. It's the best. It's
exactly.
The best. Get the steak salad with the French fries at the bottom.
We would go in there and I do like business lunches and stuff there. And I'd be talking to like hedge fund guys, whatever. And I would say, listen, everybody's coming from suburbia, Kendallandia, which is what I call it, basically west. Everybody's come from Kendallandia. They're moving east because the prices are so cheap. So I would always do it with the waiter or waitress. Hey, where do you live? Oh, yeah, I live on Brickell. Oh, where did you used to live? Oh, I used to live in Kendall. Because prices fell, and because they fell so much, the market was able to solve the problem. My concern is, I think this is a good start, but my concern is they're not going to be able to get it over the finish line, and now you got to factor in tariff costs. What the hell are tariffs going to be? George Perez of the Related Group, his son, John Paul Perez, the CEO, he says their bids, and they do a hell of a lot of building, their bids are up 20% from the general contractors. How the hell is a workforce housing type of project, affordable workforce, whatever they're calling it, how's it going to get built? And are you going to burn so much cash on tariff money where you could be putting up extra units? Why not just slow down and build it slower, calmer, and build when the market's going to shit and pull back when the market's hot? It seems counterintuitive, but I would argue that just based on what I've seen over and over and over. So I'm a sell on that. I think this thing is going to be a disaster. And if it ever gets built, it's going to take forever.
I think too many local politicians, and when I say local, I mean state politicians as well, have put their might behind this and have
100%.
Have spent a lot 100%. Of political capital making sure that this goes through. They don't want to seem like assholes to their constituents, and they're going to do everything in their power, and they do have power to apoyar and to help these guys get to the finish line. And you know what?
Okay, so so let me give you a solution. You want to really deal with that? What you do is you finally build that Metro Rail extension from 79th Street, take it all the way up to the Broward County line, and take it to, what do they call it now? Hard Rock Stadium. I was going to say Joe Robbie. Do that.
We should definitely spend $500 million redoing 2.5 miles on the Rickenbacker.
Well, I don't know about the Rickenbacker. I don't know, but that's a different story. That's a different socioeconomic group. But if you put the Metro Rail, you take it up to the Broward County line, I'm telling you, investment would go in there. Land could be had at decent prices. And by the way, for disclosure, I'm on the board of directors, one of the committees for what used to be the Opelika Community Redevelopment Association. It's now called 10 North, but just for disclosure. But I'm telling you, put the Metro all the way up 27, take it all the way to the baseball. I was going to say baseball from the Marlins days. Take it up to Hard Rock, and you will see all kinds of workforce housing able to be built because now it makes sense. Look what's happening in the Grove. They just got approval now. What was it? Related in 13th floor to do a project at Douglas, and US One, right by where the Aldi's is and the Milam's.
Oh yeah, well they're gonna go like Locust, Metro
Yeah,
Station to Metro Station, just like what they did on 27th. And
dude, no car since 2013.
oh
I
sure,
rode the
no
subway
car.
today. Yeah, I'm saying I rode the subway today. You build that stuff, people will come. Build a metro, take it up 27th to the Hard Rock. And you don't have take the money that's just going to go for this and concentrate everybody in one area and put it in infrastructure. Developers will
But that's what
follow.
they're doing. I mean, they're putting 6,000 workforce units, and they're building a train station.
But it's going to be overkill. But it's going to be overkill. I mean, I grew up in Chicago, and in Chicago you had the north side and the south side. And based on the stuff they were doing back then, you didn't really go to the south side type of thing. And the problem is when you concentrate too many people, I mean, a lot of the redevelopment that was going on, they would split it up. That's why Live Local. We got some workforce housing, and then we could have high-end condos on top of it. Kind of make
We
it
talked about that. We're going to see that. We're going to
yeah,
start seeing that in the Grove with these terminations. They're going to put workforce on the bottom and
yeah.
luxury on the top. It's going to be like a
Now
mall.
you got everybody. Yeah, exactly. You got everybody living in the community. It's not just the bougies, or it's not just like the working class has got to work like 10
Well,
jobs
and
to
and,
pay
and
their rent.
I think that's lessons learned from Wynwood, and
Yeah, yeah,
I think you know they're actually having people live here. People already live in Little Haiti. The problem
yeah.
is that they are getting pushed out, right? If you
Well,
go,
a lot of guys I know who were in Little Haiti, dude, they cashed in. They had people
oh
coming
no
by,
no,
and
they're taking the money.
they took the money. They
But
took, just like Edgewater. Some friends had places in Edgewater. They were like, dude, it's all yours. Give me
well,
$1 million for this house I bought for $100,000 all day long.
we gotta move on from that, and that's going to transition us. I'm going to skip the next
Okay, but
topic.
I
We're
am
going
a
to come back to
sell on
it.
that. I'm a
You're a
sell.
sell.
I'm a
I,
sell. Hard sell.
I'm gonna have to put hold because I'm a buy. We're 50-50. It's a split ticket.
I just think the market can work it out. I think the market can work it out if you give it the infrastructure. That's all I'm saying. Put the train up. Just run that train to Broward County line, Metro
You
Rail,
know that's
and
not going to
I would
happen.
ride it.
They are not going to expend the Metro Rail to save your life.
Dude, you got the World Cup coming. The
Oh no
World
no no!
Cup's coming.
I
Why
get
not
it.
get on the train? You can get on the train in the Grove, in Vizcaya,
Wait,
downtown
are we talking
Miami.
about World Cup 2050? Because there's no
20.
way they're going to. This is not going to happen.
The Mayor Levine Cava, she was pushing that
She
initiative.
can't get the airport train to work. Okay.
I do take the airport train. I take the airport train.
No. I'm talking about the tram in
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, yeah. Well, and the other thing is escalators. Escalators at
the
the Metro
people
Mover
move it,
station,
the
Metro Rail station.
escalators, and then they're going to build a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Concourse K. They're going to spend $600 million building 4 more gates. Awesome.
Wait, which, by the way, it reminds me, a chief building officer, somebody who runs the back end of buildings. He told me one of the reasons that buildings sometimes slow walk repairing their elevators. So you're talking about escalators, make me think of elevators. Just a little tidbit. He says it's 10 G's a visit, 10 grand, which is why a lot of times, so they get the warranty, but basically 10 grand every time your elevator breaks is
Wow.
effectively what it's going to cost. That's why if your elevator's down for a while, the association is trying to figure out a workaround. They might call somebody in over the weekend, give them a screwdriver. That's a joke, but 10 G's every time you got to fix one of your elevators in
You
one of
heard
these
it here
buildings.
first. 10 G's
Yeah,
if your elevator
yeah.
is broken. So, maybe you should take the stairs. I'm holding on Swerdlow. You don't agree.
So,
But I want to jump to.
but I'm selling the project. I'm not selling Swerdlow. As a developer, well established, got the street cred, got the credibility. We'll get it over the finish line, no question. But the concept, I would sell.
Bye. All right. Well,
That's what makes a market.
You were talking about people in Little Haiti who cashed out.
Yep.
Somebody else cashed out just recently, and it was a little company out of Asia called Swire. Swire sold 211.3 million, all cash.
Yep.
God knows they need it because the Mandarin Oriental will be closing tomorrow. They will be reopening in 5 years as the Mandarin Oriental residences on Brickell Key.
However, real estate takes 3 times as long and costs twice as much. You heard that here first as well. Go ahead.
I think they actually might deliver. Swire's a good builder, like Swerdlow.
Yeah, but Swire was built with Steve Owens. So let's call him Old Man Owens built it.
Ben Hot guy, Ben Holt. Is that his name?
I'm not saying anything bad, but Steve Owens was connected. He knew how things worked. He was here since the freaking 90s. He knew how to navigate City Hall. He knew how to navigate all of it. This replacement, he's been there a couple of years. What has he done so far in terms of going vertical? Steve Owens went vertical on Brickell Key. Steve Owens went vertical on Brickell City Center. This new gentleman who's in there, and I've never had the pleasure of meeting him. What does he put up? It's all he's done, as far as I know, is sell off.
Come on and talk to us, man. Where's Ben?
Do you know him?
No, I don't. I just know that the rumor is, well, actually, no, forget it. It was a good thing, though, Ben.
But I would say, though, before Daniel, you go on, so Steve Owens was like this is an extreme, but he was like a Steve Jobs, where, is his replacement going to be more like a Tim Cook? Where you kind of manage what you got, but you're not necessarily doing something new.
I mean,
but anyways, go ahead.
To be the flagship of their international brand, and I didn't realize this until I visited and I was talking to some of the sales folks there. People who love the Mandarin love Mandarin. Like, they collect them like trinkets. If you have several hundred bazillion dollars, you go around the world and you buy Mandarin condos. And this is supposed to be the sexiest of the sexy. I mean, they're spending a lot of money on this thing. It's the sales center alone was rumored to be over $10 million, and they're knocking it down. Have you been down there to see it? It's quite the sight.
No. I should. Maybe I'll go down there on Sunday. Saturday I'm doing Biscayne Boulevard, but maybe I'll go have a walk around. I like to walk around Brickell Key. It gives you great perspective. But I will tell you, a lot of Brickell Key stuff, it's old ass condos. These things need to get terminated.
The only 2 buildings that I love in Brickell Key are Asia and Carbonell. I love Asia. Built in 2008. Carbonell's a little more vintage, 2005. Yep. But those are respectively the newest buildings on Brickell Key. And Asia, I think, is significantly smaller. There's not that many units in Asia. You have all the private elevators. If you're in that 04 line, you don't even have to go into the lobby. There's an elevator with a fob connected to it at the valet. And so you can get dropped off in an Uber or in your car, whatever, and you just go up to your unit. No other building that I've ever toured has that.
Carbonell. I'm just calling him Old Man for shits and giggles. But Old Man Carbonell designed it. Then they named the condo after him. And he had some influence on the design of it at the time. So,
I'm trying to get us back live on YouTube.
Do they have like a time allotment or something on YouTube?
No, there's no time allotment. Oh, we're back. I'm sorry.
All right.
Everybody. All right. Sorry, I fucked up. Damn it, FCC is going to come after me again. Kidding. I think YouTube is like totally democratized. No, so we were talking about Swire. You told me an anecdote about Carbonell. For everybody that was on YouTube or is watching YouTube, my bad. I guess I'll just have to edit that out of the final video. But Swire. So Swire sold.
Yep. Now they sold to the Mello Group, and
they sold to Mello.
For disclosure, I've done consulting for Mello. I'm not working with them now. I probably won't comment on their part, but I can comment on the Swire part because I'm very clear about that part.
Well, tell us.
I wasn't involved in this deal anyway. I just want everybody to know.
What's going on? So Steve Ross was the big money behind it, right? And he said, I'm having difficulty in pre-leasing, and I'm putting all my chips in Palm Beach. And he's pretty much divested out of Brickell, is he?
Yeah. After this, apparently, yeah. But the reason this is important is that Ken Griffin, who's supposedly doing his $1 billion office tower, which I did a piece about a month ago saying he's not going to do it because he's supposed to break ground in Q3, which begins July 1st. Supposed to break ground. You got the Liberation Day stuff. I did a piece saying he's not going to do it. But so what it shows you is these two major towers that were supposed to go forward. One is Swire. The other one is Ken Griffin's project right there between the Jade, Brickell, and the Mark right on the bay. I think it's a tell that whole office thing is probably not going to happen anytime soon. And Swire simply is alleviating themselves of it. And they're probably going to have the cash. Why? Because when they bought that dirt, they bought it as a song during the Great Recession. So if you want to bet the jockey, I would say Swire, who's been around a long time, they're exiting because they want to get locked and loaded. They want powder for to go out and go buffalo hunting. I'm not talking about anything protected. I'm talking about,
Swire's probably rolling that into the construction for the Mandarin, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, who knows? Are they going to build on spec? Are they going to get financing for? Who the hell's going to finance this kind of condo, even with that type of deposit?
They might not finance it. They are a multinational developer. This isn't Related Group of Florida we're talking about.
Just build it on their own. That's a hell of a lot of exposure, though.
This is like, who did the same thing is Jackie Sofer self-financed Turnberry One.
Yep. So did Marty Margulies did it up in Aventura. Well, he actually pledged artwork. He put some pieces of art up in order to get a personal loan. Well, effectively personal loan to finance the building up there. But yeah. So there's big money. Swire's big money.
And Ken Griffin is big money too. I mean, Stephen Ross, Ken Griffin. Yes,
Ken Griffin's got no track record. He's got no track record here. Everybody tells me about Ken Griffin. What has he done but overpay for every piece of real estate?
He can overpay for whatever he wants. He's worth $50 billion that we know about. Steve Ross, yes, a billionaire, but he's worth 1/10 of what this guy's worth. Ken Griffin can build this building and not lease it and lose $1 billion or $2 billion.
He made the announcement in like 2022. How long does it take to design an office tower with a hotel and some residential? How long does it take? I'm just telling you, I've seen this.
I don't think it's going to have a residential component.
No, but I'm saying I've seen this over and over and over. Guy comes in, woman comes in, big announcement. We're going to do this. Everybody in Miami comes out and kisses her behind. They bend the knee. They all want to get close. And then what happens? What about Moishe Mana? Moishe Mana owns all of Flagler. What the hell is he doing with all that space? I'm just saying, you always see these people come in here.
Keeping it closed. He's making traffic the biggest nightmare in downtown, and it continues to be the biggest. When are they going to reopen Flagler? The word on the street is they're going to try to pedestrianize the thing. I don't know how the traffic patterns are allowing for that.
I mean, in all reality, they should. The other one they ought to do is take up a George Perez and Related Group's proposal, shut Miami Avenue between Coral Way and 8th.
They tried to do that, but I guess life will find a way, right? You'll figure it out. But
hey, I don't have a car. I could care less. Shut it down.
I do have a car. I'm with the other 99.99999%.
You're killing Mother Earth.
So with Swire selling, I know you're going to say sell. You're selling this.
Dude, it's a tell. When a local dumps. I mean, let me give you a perfect example. Ugo Colombo bought a piece of dirt on the north bank of the river. Ugo Colombo's a fantastic developer. His quality stands alone. If he builds a project, everybody floods into it. So Ugo bought 2 sites, right in the north bank of the river, right across. And the first one he put up, which was the inferior site, it's called Epic. He's got the site in front of it. He ends up dumping that to an out-of-towner who's never built here before. Guy owns like supermarkets or something in Argentina. Comes up here, buys that site. When Ugo Colombo, who's got a track record, says, you know what, you're smarter than me, you're going to pay, take it. That's the kind of situation. Now, what the dynamic, though, related with Swires, they actually sold to the Mello Group. And the Mello Group they understand their numbers. They understand how to do things. Like I said, I've done consulting for them before. I'm not involved in any way.
So you think Mello's going to turn it into a condo project? Because remember, one block was supposed to be a super tall office. That was intended by Swire and Stephen Ross when they acquired it. By the way, they acquired it from not just a Brickell family. They acquired it from the Brickell family, the Brickels, for $63 million in 2013.
Dude, I had a buyer at the time. We were chasing that site because that site went all the way west to Miami Avenue. You remember on the other side, there was like a nursery for plants and stuff. If you needed plants on Brickell, you'd go over there. There was a 7-Eleven, some shit-ass little 7-Eleven with the chickens and everything around. Yeah, no, I'm telling you, they're taking the cash. I'm sure the Mellows are going to do whatever they're going to do, but they tend to lean more towards residential. They have it expanded. They still do rentals, real big rentals, high rises. You see them everywhere. You always know a Mellow project because they always have a for rent sign on the side. Always. Doesn't matter if it's full, it's not full. There's always for rent. And now they're morphing into condos. They're doing that area reserve. They did area on the bay. So they're moving into the condo market, and this really is a marquee site. But who's to say they don't JV? The thing is, they're going to own one of the most prominent, I'd call it a trophy site in the Brickell Avenue area because Calle Ocho or 8th Street meets Brickell, and it's also the gateway getting into Brickell Key. But Daniel, here's really the question. Here's the question you need to ask yourself. Squire's dumping. They're out. They made their money. Call it a day. Move along. This guy who's in charge now, has he built anything? Not that I'm aware of. And the other thing is the reason that Swire went into this area at the time is they were out of dirt on Brickell Key. And they were afraid that they were going to turn into nothing. They were no longer going to be pertinent. So they made the move and they got the right price. Now, okay, they dumped this site. They own a little bit more dirt, but now they're putting everything back in Brickell Key. And then what's their next play going forward? They got the land immediately north of Brickell City Center. They're involved with the parcel to the west where Tobacco Road was, and the retrofitted Tobacco Road. But what's really their play going forward? If you're a big developer like Swire, why aren't you going out and conquering? And maybe that's where they sell it because they need cash because they realize in order to be pertinent going forward, once all of these mandarins come online, what's your next play? Or are you done? Is the relationship that began in the 80s, has it effectively reached its end? And that's the real question to be asking, I would argue.
Yeah, I don't know why they got rid of that site. The only
why not JV? Just JV with it.
Right. The only thing I can think of is that they need the cash because they want to finance the Mandarin project. That's a really big project, and money.
I would argue they need the cash. I would argue they're
acquiring other stuff.
They're gaining power. They're putting powder in there, and they're going to keep it dry.
They want to do affordable housing in Little Haiti.
They're probably going to do acquisitions at a deal, at a discount, just like what they paid for the dirt where Brickell City Center is. And if anybody doesn't know Brickell City Center, it's a massive project. There's 2 residential towers. 3 towers. They're all connected. Big mall. You got an Apple store.
They did a nice job.
Yeah, fantastic job. But they still have other development sites, but nothing of Squire's prominence anymore. And now they're dumping dirt. They could have JV'd with Mello or anybody else. And stayed in the game, but they unloaded that. Why are they doing it? You say in order to build out Brickell Key, 2 sites. I say they want cash because they are anticipating some sort of downturn and they're going to go out hunting for deals. That would be my argument.
I mean, the downturn, I'm not arguing downturn isn't coming or maybe that we're already entering it right now. If you have dry powder, now's the time.
I will tell you, on the Swire, on the Mello side, again, I did consulting for them before, not doing anything now, but on the down that side, I can tell you about their background. They came here after the peso devaluation, Argentinian peso devaluation against the U.S. dollar, and they came up here and they started building rentals all in and around the Biscayne Boulevard corridor. One of their first projects was right there on 22nd in Biscayne. They put up another one across from the Publix on 17th Terrace or whatever it is. So they're very good. They know how to run their numbers. They can build when no one else is building simply because they understand it. They have everything down to a science. They have a lot of people internally, and they have investors from pretty much all over. So I got no doubts about Mello being able to go forward simply because of their model. They just do what they do. But Swire, I'm telling you, that's the focus. Why? And old man Owen, Steve Owens, why did he sell? He probably also sensed that nobody wants his office tower. And maybe Ken Griffin, if he does go forward, he's going to poach all the clients. Because everyone's going to want to be close to Ken Griffin and his $42 billion.
The Ken Griffin thing isn't just that 150-something story building. I mean, he did a condo buyout across the street. He's the 300. What is it? About $380 million of acquisition. He did. It wasn't just the Tiber Hollow site on the water there. So Tiber Hollow, for anybody that doesn't know, he developed the Panorama, the big multifamily building right behind this site, but he
Yep.
also owned the lot that's sandwiched between the Jade and the Mark. And
Yep. Yep.
what is
Yep.
that? Is it a couple acres, Peter?
Oh, good question. Yeah, it's probably something like that. Well, remember, Tibor Hollow was going to put up 2 towers on that site. They're going to be a pair tower with, yeah.
With
So
the bridge,
it's a
it was
big
going to be
site.
awesome.
Yeah.
But effectively, so for the last forever, it's been a surface parking lot, and then
Correct.
Timber Hollow and Co. Florida East Coast Real Estate Group, they sold this to Ken Griffin as part of a larger assemblage, and now he wants to build this office building.
That's my point. When locals sell, you have to ask yourself,
yeah, but
why are they selling?
They've owned that for forever, and Timber Hollow passed away fairly recently. Maybe they wanted to take the cash. I mean, their cost basis on that, I don't know what it is.
But if you're a developer, the key ingredient is dirt. So if Squire's unloading this dirt, you say, why? What else have they got left? They're going to pull up another condo or two, or I mean, why would you? You got the cornerstone of your whole Brickell City Center project, unless the new management or the new directive is completely different than what Steve Owens had introduced when they went forward Brickell City Center. I'm just saying this is a seismic shift because this was the marquee aspect, the cornerstone of the whole Brickell City Center. It was going to be mixed use. There was going to be office, there was going to be condo, there was going to be hotel, retail. Yeah. This was supposed to be the marquee one. I remember taking people on bus tours back during the run-up in 12, 13, 14 when we started building again. This was like the rock star project. And now it's simply, what the hell? We're going to get rid of it. Something changed. Now remember, Hong Kong-based Swire. They were traded in London. I don't know if they still are. Now, who's to say maybe there's not some other issue related there? I don't know. And last I heard, or last I knew, they were the owners. That entity also owned Cathay Pacific, the airline.
Well, speaking of, and so we're selling on Swire sells.
Yeah, I think the model's fine.
We're selling.
Yeah. Because that, yeah. That to me shows not desperation, but downturns coming, and we want cash.
All right. Well, speaking of downturn coming, and we talked a little bit about this last week. We were talking about spec homes, right? And I don't know if somebody at The Real Deal watched our show last week, but pure coincidence, they're talking about spec homes. Or as Todd Glasser likes to say it, I don't build spec homes, I build custom homes. I'm sorry, dude. Unless you got hired by somebody to build a custom home, if you don't have a buyer, that is a speculative home. It's a spec.
You are speculating that someone will buy it. Yep.
That is the definition of a spec home. And I'm not talking down at it. They do wonderful work. I mean, and they make a ton of money. The market rewards them very handsomely for this work, but these guys are slowing down. Some of these spec home, custom home builders, they don't have anything in the plans. They don't have anything in permitting. Land has gotten very expensive. Resources, tariffs. Is the music? I'm not saying it stopped, but are we slowing it down? It takes 3 years to build one of these houses, from ideation to completion. You ask any of these builders, it takes a year, depending on what submarket you're in. You're in Coral Gables, that's a year. Easy. Historic house, if it's a historic landmark, like every other house in Coral Gables seems to be, add another 10 months to it, at least. So, you could be stuck in a planning phase, and this is if you're really on top of it, right? And these guys are professionals, the ones we're talking about here. These guys are really on top of it. 30 months, 36 months, and that could very easily turn into 4 or 5 years. And this is why they say that folks buying 20, 30, 40, $50 million houses, they'll buy a spec home. Maybe it's not perfect for them, but they just don't want to go through the headache of trying to build a house for 4 or 5 years. They'd rather go to St. Bart's or Stott or wherever the hell these people go, right? They want to build it. They want a turnkey multi-bazillion dollar property. And that's something that the market can offer them here. And the folks who have taken advantage of that market, or one could say exploited that market, have been handsomely rewarded for that. for that product. But it's stopping or it's slowing down. Land's gotten expensive. Resources, there's an uncertainty. I mean, what do you do now if you're a builder? Are you just, hey, let's buy a shit ton of aluminum railing because I don't know what it's going to cost in 6 months.
Well, I mean, I think we're seeing these moves. If it's slowing down, like again, I don't know anything about houses, but if it's slowing down, and it's somebody who's got battle scars as a developer, and they're slowing down. I think this is a decision being made out of fear that the market could be working against them, as well as possibility of being able to buy dirt cheap. I said it last week. I think it was last week. It might have been the week prior.
Well, because we're going on 3 weeks now, Peter.
Yep. When you see Lennar, the large single-family home builder, when they start to unload land, you know the market's going to shit. 100% going to shit for a single-family home. So until Lennar pulls the trigger and starts to unload, or more importantly, if they start buying and they're paying record prices, then I think that would be a great tell. But somebody's slowing it down. What are you going to do? This is the summer of paralysis by analysis. You don't know what's going to happen with the tariffs. There's basically nothing to do till Labor Day. Take some time off. Go to St. Bart's. Go to Canada. Well, you're probably not going to be welcome in Canada. Go somewhere. Enjoy yourself. Come back in September. Regroup, see who the hell's still standing, see where the dollar is, and then you take it from there, assuming we don't have any hurricane warnings and no storms hit in late August. Like, remember, Andrew was late August.
Noah came through. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they said active storm season, something like 13 to 18 named storms. I don't know if I'm pulling that out of my ass, but yeah, a lot. And remember, guys, hurricane season starts in 2 days, June 1st, and runs all the way till the end of October. Doesn't typically start getting particularly active until August. So the dog days of hurricane season are not near. We can see named storms as of a couple of days from now. But yeah, as Peter said, Andrew didn't hit till the end of August. Katrina didn't hit until what? End of August? Maria, I think, was in September. Irma was in September.
Irma was September. Yep.
That was 2017. Irma's the last one that really knocked us hard, and that wasn't that long ago. Yeah, it was 8 years ago. 8 years ago, what was coming online 8 years ago, Peter? Paraiso?
Yeah, probably roughly. Yeah, probably Petty. Yep. You had a lot of that product was all kind of making its way online.
Water.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of projects too were also failing in and around that time, and then they were getting turned into rentals. You know what's interesting is you walk around whenever you see a building that's like, I don't know, 10 stories tall, that is a sign that the developer did not have confidence in the market because they left so many units on the table, and it doesn't matter. Like
you're all the way up. It's like when you go to Pompeii and you're digging through the dirt, you can sort of see evidence of years past.
I mean, let me give you a perfect example. So Biscayne Boulevard's one way, but let's just talk about Brickell. So, there's a Coral on there. There's the first Publix in the Brickell area, which is right there on Coral Way and was it Northwest 2nd or so? A little bit before the grade school.
Yeah, it's got the cafeteria and the liquor store there, right?
Exactly. So right across the street from it going north, you're going to have a rental tower done by some REIT, I think out of Phoenix or something. It's like 6 stories.
Oh, the Sony.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Now go next to that. That's where they're putting up this Mercedes. This Mercedes building is going to be like 50 stories or something. But if you want to see where the developer confidence was, look at the height of the buildings. If you go down the Biscayne Boulevard area, you look at the Cité where they got the daily, the deli. Look at that building. Those, again, 6 stories, 7 stories, 10 stories, and then next to it, Paramount on the Bay. So you can always tell where they built in a cycle based on how many stories they went up. And that's a perfect example. So I would just say it's a tell. If you want to know what's going on in the market, look and see if they're maximizing. And if they're not maximizing, they're not real freaking confident in what's going to happen in the market going forward.
From a guy. I'm glad you decided to wear the hat today. You put your thinking cap on. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's a Marlins cap. That was the cheapest one I can get. By the way, anybody's a Marlins fan, $5 tickets, no surcharge. Go to Sedano's. Sedano's will sell them. There's some kind of deal they cut when they built the stadium on the side of the old Orange Bowl. Sedano's $5 tickets. You go in there. I think you can buy 10 at a time, and they give you a voucher. You show up at the ticket office day of the game. You hand it in. Yep. Yeah. Well, it looks like a ticket, but it's effectively a voucher. You gave it to them. They give you a ticket to get you into the ballpark. But $5, no spread, no nothing. And then they got 2 sections in the Marlins Park where you get $5 beers, $3 hot dogs, $3 pretzels, $3 popcorn, $3 nachos.
Why is the Marlins, who's probably the worst
Marlins.
administered franchise in the city, why do they have the best food?
I don't know if it's the best, but definitely I stick to that $3 and $5.
No, we're talking about Heat, Dolphins, Marlins.
Yeah.
That stadium has the best food.
A lot of people like the Heat. A lot of people look at the Heat and how
chicken tenders.
price wise, yeah, no, that's outside of my.
No.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah.
they had fish tacos. You can get a Cuban
Yeah.
sandwich. You know, they got cool stuff. All right, so spec homes, you're selling on spec homes.
I'm selling on the spec homes, and I think developers are going to be selling, and they're going to be everybody. I think is going to build up cash, and they're going to look for opportunities that are coming. And doing anything over the summer before Labor Day, fool's errand, I think. But that creates an opportunity for those who are much more of gunslingers. This is the time to go in because nobody wants to touch this stuff until there's clarity and transparency.
I just blew out your eardrum. Our last topic of the day was going to be Mandarin Oriental, but we touched on that when we were talking about Swire. But we got a few minutes left because we were a little late today. But you're our condo guru. All hail condo guru.
Oh, I don't know. I would say a contrarian. A contrarian to one of the.
Everybody who stuck with us this long, if you haven't realized it by now, Peter Zalewski is he is the old man wizard. I'm sorry, I called you old, but he's
old man
Gandalf,
old man
Gandalf condos.
Old man Zalewski.
But Peter. Everything we talked about today, I think there was an overarching theme of smart money is holding and building their war chest for the impending reckoning, right? What does that say for the ultra luxury condo sales market, like the Mandarin Oriental, which is selling right now at a blend between $2,500 and $3,000 a square foot? Are they going to struggle, or are they going to continue to sell these pre-construction condos at the pace they've been selling them at?
Well, first of all,
Coconut Grove, the Aman in Miami Beach. What else is ultra lux? 1428 in Brickell, St. Regis in Brickell. These are all projects that are selling pre-construction at above a $2,000 per square foot basis. Meaning, guys, if you're watching, a 2,500 square foot condo, which is probably the smallest offering that any of these buildings are going to have, is going to cost you well into $5 million. So how many buyers are there out there for this product? Because there's a good amount of this product going up.
Yeah. There's a good amount of the product going up. The question is, what are they really paying? Now, what I would tell anybody walking into a sales office, don't believe them. Do not believe them. This is not like buying a stock where there is a filing, where there's an SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, in order to enforce what they're saying in a release from a company. When a condo developer tells you something, understand what you're buying, and you're effectively buying a futures contract. You're buying something that says, in the future, the place is going to be, I'm going to pay this for it because I think the place is going to be worth more. Now, if you are that bullish on Miami in this particular project, go ahead, knock yourself out. And you're going to be asked to put down 50%. Well, now they're only asking for 30% on some projects. Why? Because they're not selling them. They're not selling them. So just assume whatever you're told, it may or may not be correct. Also assume if you hear the building is 65% sold, understand that is what every sales office says. Every sales office says they're 65% sold. I've never walked into a sales office that doesn't say 65% sold.
65% of current inventory that has been released.
Correct. But this is always a tell. Watch for these little things related to it. Now, on a price per square foot basis, maybe a question to ask is, what's the construction cost on one of these buildings? Maybe you can figure out what the construction cost is, and then you kind of work in what is the developer's profit. This is going to be an important part for it because now you can see how much they're really making early in a cycle. That profit margin, I would argue, could be as high as 50%. Late in a cycle, it could be as low as, call it 10%, 12%, somewhere in there. But generally, they blend ballpark 30% from what I've seen. Generally speaking, every developer will say, no, you're wrong. We got this, we got that. Well, what about the developer fee for 2 points? What about this fee? What about this junk fee? Blah, 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 blah. Call it 30%. So if you can figure out pre-construction cost or what the construction cost is, maybe you got a contractor friend. Maybe you read something. You figure that out. You figure out what the pricing is. You put a 30% spread on it. Now you know what the real price should be. And what they tell you, do not count on it. And how do I know that? Because I go through deeds that are recorded with the clerk of the court. I got threatened with lawsuits before from some people who are very powerful right now because we were looking at deeds, which never came up in the MLS, and never came up in Zillow, never came up in any there. You go through the deeds, you can actually see what stuff trades for. If you want to see a pure form of arbitrage, you would see the same unit on different floors, and the price difference was spectacular in terms of, oh, well, it sold for this, it sold for that. So if you go in and you're looking at pre-construction, ask them, how much is the cheapest price unit overlooking the dumpster? I don't want to view, I want to overlook the dumpster. And now you got a baseline.
Nicest unit in, you want the shittiest
I want the shittiest unit because now you got a baseline. So if they tell you the shitty unit overlooking the dumpster and it's going to stink when the garbage truck comes once a week or twice a week, whatever that price is, now you get something to work with. And then compare that to the average. Now you're going to know what kind of spread they're putting in. And also ask for the one, not looking at the water. You want the one looking at the city. You want the city view overlooking the dumpster, because now they're going to start to reveal what is the real pricing in the building. And then everything else they tell you above that doesn't really matter, because now you have a sense of what pricing is. But remember, when they sell these condos, they sell them in tranches. So if you got 300 units, they might carve out 50, and they're going to sell 50 at a time at this price. They'll carve out another 50, they'll sell it at this price. So that's why it's so difficult until they close to be able to put it on the board. So either figure out replacement cost and or figure out how much the price is overlooking the dumpster, and that'll give you context, and then compare it to the overall market. And right now, pre-construction, Greater Downtown Miami area, about 27% premium for pre-construction versus resale on the street today. So you ask yourself, is it worth 27% more to live in something new that is going to be delivered a couple of years from now, or would I rather buy used and I pay 27% less? And I think Daniel, that's why you have some of these developers under pressure, because people are running those numbers. Because the people buying today are either they don't know what they're doing and this is their first shot, or they do know what they're doing and they're starting to look for deals and value, and they're starting to lowball the developers and the sales and the sellers.
But are these units that are reselling these 27% lower than the pre-construction prices, are these vintage, or are these just?
Well, no. This is across the board. It's across the board.
Across the board.
Across the board, 27% premium based on a report we did last week on MiamiCondo.club. 27% premium for new versus overall. That'll be blended everything. Old, it'll be vintage, it'll be a resale, it'll be all across the board. It's the whole pool.
Last question before we're out of time. What is the premium for a recently built building, and I'll say recently, last 15 years, versus a building that is 30 plus years old, as you say, vintage?
So I pulled the numbers. If you bear with me, I'm looking at this on a laptop. I'm gonna give you real-time data right now. I pulled the numbers for you can still see me, right? Because I got another screen open. Just bear with me.
Yeah.
Pulling it up. I'm gonna tell you right now. So right now in that Biscayne Boulevard corridor area, because that's the area I just pulled. Let me see if I can share screen. Can I share screen or no? No, I don't want to do it. I won't mess it up. Okay, so right now in this Biscayne Boulevard corridor area, which is what I'm doing for my tour, that's why I got the numbers real time. So the average ask for a condo in this area from the MacArthur Causeway, about 14th Street or so, 13th, 12th, somewhere right in there, because they close streets in order to do this the spider thing. The artwork with the bridge. So going up to the Julia Tuttle, then the Bay West I-95. Average ask is 1.1 a door for overall condos. A vintage unit, which is 30 years or more, average ask $514 a door. So about a 54% discount if you buy vintage over overall condo.
Here's the problem with the vintage condos.
Yep.
Since these assessments. Okay, so anybody who's watching this, when a building has these special assessments, I haven't seen this. Maybe Peter has seen this. But typically, once there's a transaction, that assessment is payable in full by either the seller or the buyer. It's like if the seller was financing this over several years with a lender or a private lender, or with the HOA. Sometimes they have a line of credit where they can finance this. But if you sell, you have to either pay it as a seller or the buyer has to pay it, and it's payable immediately. And a lender, if a buyer is coming in, a lender will not allow you to roll that into your mortgage. So even though you're buying this 30-year condo for $500,000, you might have a six-figure special assessment that you have to pay at closing. And that's why these buildings are not, these units aren't sellable, because I can get a mortgage of 5% down FHA for a $500,000 condo, but FHA, they're not underwriting these buildings because they don't meet the reserve requirements. Maybe they have too many rentals. There's a whole laundry list of things, of reasons why FHA will not lend these buildings. And then even if they can, you cannot roll an assessment into the cost of the transaction. So you have to come up with a lot of cash.
Yep.
I mean, there's got to be something. I mean, it's not going to happen this year because the legislature didn't do. We talked about.
Well, we'll have to see what DeSantis does. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis does with the bill that was passed. I still haven't heard him signing it yet.
No.
So I don't even know if it's been presented, because remember, they got to come back or they never closed the session because they didn't pass the budget yet, and they got some kind of timeline. But that'll be something to watch. But again, though, in Biscayne Boulevard corridor, now vintage units on the market, they only represent about 7% of the market at this point in that area. So that's at least telling. But now on a price per foot basis, $771 a foot is what they're asking for overall condos in that area. The vintage are asking $495 a foot.
Right.
So now you get into a little bit more reasonable perspective. And then what do they trade for? Vintage
to one of these old mismanaged buildings.
Well, if your goal is to buy it and you're going to rent it out, remember 1% rule, whatever your rent is, that represents 1% of the value, or whatever you buy it at, you need to get 1% of that monthly for rent. If you buy it that and you can carry it out and it's a location that some developer is going to want and come and pay you and give you a boatload of money to piss off, so he or she can knock it down and go vertical, that makes sense.
That's super speculative.
Oh, it's 100% speculative. We were doing tours 10 years ago. No, 2014. I was pointing some of these out to people on the tour. Listen, you can get a rent and you want to play that game. I mean, people have played the game. They played this game a long time, and some have cashed out. The big one, the one that made news, was the Una, Una over, the one being done by the same guy who did Masoni, right there about 22nd. Yeah, 22nd in Brickell.
Right off the Rickenbacker.
Yeah. There was a guy in there. Miami Herald wrote a story back in the day, and this guy was looking for a place for his family, couldn't find a house, so he said, what, screw it, let me just buy this condo. It's all I can afford. I'm telling a story here, so I don't know. I don't remember the details. Well, 6 months, a year later, this developer comes rolling in. He gives him $1 million. He pays. The guy originally bought it for, I don't know, $400,000, $350,000, $450,000, $250,000, and he gets $1 million.
That's not an uncommon tale. Look,
it's very common.
Since last week, there have been not one, not two, not three, 4 condos that have gone public. Okay, maybe only 3 of them went public. The 4th one isn't public yet. Sorry, guys. In Coconut Grove, and that's just Coconut Grove, high profile, because the developer wanted to put out a sexy press release. One of those is the Mutiny. So, and I think we've talked about this every week because this is week 3. But biggest lie. That is not the last piece of waterfront real estate. The Mutiny has been there for 150,000 years, and that is right there on the park. And guess what they're going to do? They're going to knock that motherfucker down, and they're going to build Super Sexy.
And that's another tell. If they tell you this is the last piece of waterfront land, you better buy it now. If you don't buy it, it doesn't exist again. Well, in Florida, you create condos by filing paperwork, and you destroy condos or terminate them by ripping up the paperwork. That 300-page condo declaration, you rip that thing up, it's gone, and that's what they do. So there's never one last piece of real estate, which is how they sell you. These are just tells to watch for if you're in the market. But again, I tend to work on the buy side. I'm not good on the sell side because I'm too straightforward with some of the stuff that sellers don't want you to know.
So you buy, sell, hold on Ultralux.
It would have to be a sell. I don't know who steps in to take these people out. If international traffic is down from what they're saying, I took a quick glimpse at March Miami International Airport numbers. I was waiting to see April. They hadn't been released, and you were already seeing a decrease in the amount of international buyers. Dade County is 54% foreign born, according to U.S. Census Bureau data. If you see a slowdown in international tourism, what the hell's going to happen to South Beach? What's going to happen to greater downtown Miami? What's going to happen to all these Airbnbers and stuff like that? So I don't see, to me, it's a lot of headwinds for the market. I don't see the tailwinds to take pricing to the next, notch on the ladder, if you will, on the way up. So I'm definitely a sell.
I think I'm generally a sell, but the market you just spoke of isn't the Ultralux market. Those
correct. 100%. You're right. It's the Formula One or whatever. Yeah.
No, you're talking about 14th River District, Edge House. You're talking about the 500,000, 600,000, 700,000 up to $1 million pre-construction condo market. Ultralux. I'm talking Mandarin, St. Regis, 1428, Turnberry 1 that Jackie Sofer's doing up there on Biscayne. They're still buying.
Well, like they say, they're still buying until they're not type of situation.
Right. They're still buying until they're not.
Tell me what the tailwind is. Tell me why you take the other side of the trade. What are you going to bank on? You're going to bank on 1,000 people a day coming to Florida. You're going to bank on the fact we're a gateway to Latin America. You're going to bank on the fact that we got weather. I mean, what helps you overcome the uncertainty related to a summer of paralysis by analysis because of tariffs, because of uncertainty, because of disrespect to certain countries like Canada, where they've come out and they said, we feel disrespected. It's too expensive. We're out. We're not coming back. How do we overcome this? And then who steps in their shoes to basically bid up this market? I don't see the buyers personally because I see too many headwinds. I don't see tailwinds.
And we're at time. We'll leave it with that. Peter's a sell. I'm a buy. So we are going to hold that. We talked for a long time today. I'm sorry about the technological snafu. But 90 minutes today. Next week, we're going to talk about the Rickenbacker. We're going to talk about the Coconut Grove Playhouse. We are going to talk about
hopefully HB 913, the bill addressing the condo association. Hopefully it gets signed and it's gone forward. I have no idea when it's going to be passed or vetoed.
And then the redevelopment of the civil court, which we'll talk about with Miami World Center. A lot of we had a lot of sells today. We had a little bit of disagreements today, but there is municipal redevelopment going on. There are proposals for infrastructure projects. So, the city's got to keep on going. We got to keep on redeveloping. We have the underline, the shoreline, all the lines. I think they need to work on that. They already got the too many lines. But thank you so much for sticking with us through our tardiness and technological difficulties. We will be better. Peter, anything else to close us out?
Nope. Thank you for the time, Daniel. Well done on all the production. Sorry I look like this. You'll see me in white next time because I won't be all sweaty coming back from doing research for one of my tours. And if you are interested in a tour, go to miamicondo.club. You'll see it up there. There's a section called tours where we have the schedule. So
thanks,
thank
gang.
you.
See you all next week or tomorrow.